The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Open line through to 1. Yesterday with the students of King William's College. Anything they brought up you'd like to refer back to, by all means get in touch. But really the floor is yours. The lines are open on 66 13 68. Text 166 177. WhatsApp on the same number. Email studio@manxradio.com. If you want to find out what your MHKs are up to this weekend, I think there is a political surgery if you're a constituent at Douglas Central. Normally Chris Thomas and Anne Corlett have surgeries on the second Saturday of every month, but this one slipped. It's tomorrow, the 23rd of September, 2 till 4 at All Saints Church Hall. Anne Corlett and Chris Thomas, MHK's, the political surgery, if you have something to bring up and you're around Douglas Central. And also, I'm not kidding you, we'll be looking at the best toilet on the Isle of Man, the best public loo. It's been apparent for some time that the standard of public loos has either been slipping and certainly some are disappearing. So we will get to the bottom of it, I promise you. Brian's first on. Hi, Brian.
Get to the bottom of it. Thanks very much for that, Andy. I'm not going to moan today. I've got a confession to say. You had on your news yesterday an article about equine strangles, an upper respiratory tract, and that there is a yard on the island that does have a case. I hold my hands up. It is my yard at Glenville. We have 25 horses on the yard here currently, one of which has been confirmed to be infected with the strangles. That doesn't mean to say that's the only one that's got it. It's the only one that's tested positive, and we are carrying out proper isolation and biosecurity at the moment, and we will be testing all our animals and looking out for the symptoms as we go forward. And I just like to encourage everybody to be very vigilant and bear in mind it's more likely that this disease is transmitted by humans from horse to horse rather than natural horse-to-horse contact. If you touch a horse, particularly around the nose area, your hands can be very easily contaminated and you can carry that to another animal. That's by far the most common way that this disease will be transmitted. We are doing everything in our power to eradicate this because it's a lot of hassle, a lot of cost, and a lot of inconvenience for the whole of the island if it gets out there abroad. But we've contracted it from somewhere, so everybody should be vigilant because it may just be sneaking around in one of the smaller yards or the private areas, and that isn't being declared. But we are on lockdown. We will remain on lockdown. No animals will come on or off the yard until Ray Cox gives us the say-so that we are clear and green. So that's the position as it stands at the moment. Okay,
and as you say, Brian, everybody in the horse community, in the equine community, takes this thing deadly seriously because, of course, in extreme cases, it can be deadly.
Oh, yeah. It's very similar to COVID in that the young and the elderly are most at risk. But it's also a lockdown for you. Horses are expensive to buy and even more expensive to keep. And we have a lot of people on the yard, particularly youngsters, that are competing on a regular basis. The costs are still there, if not more, but they can't leave the yard to do what they love to do with their animals. So, you know, that's the shame of it, and that will be the case until it's totally eradicated from this area.
And what's the timetable for that, Brian?
Well, this is the problem. We don't know. We've animals that may be incubating it at the moment and not presenting with any symptoms. If they do produce symptoms, and if they were to contaminate others, it could drag on for months. I know another yard on the island struggled with it for over 5 months. We're not going to, because none of that's going to happen. I'm going around with my disinfectant and Jay's fluid on a regular basis and policing like you wouldn't believe. I'm not going to shoot any horses. I'll only shoot the owners if I see them transmitting this disease. So we are taking it very, very seriously, and we will eradicate it as quickly as we possibly can. But we won't be declaring that we're clear of it until we have been clear of it for some time, because once it's gone, it can still be hiding and incubating in the animals around you. So we want to get rid of it. It's quite common in the UK. We've been very lucky. We've kept it out of the Isle of Man, and like COVID, we want to keep it out totally. And I encourage anybody that has an animal that's presenting with any of the symptoms, the runny nose, the pustules underneath the chin and the throat area, coughing, any of those symptoms, declare it now so that we can all trace our way back to see who we've been in contact with and try to make sure that we're isolating, or you're isolating. I'm isolating anyway, but let's get rid of it as quickly as possible and get back to normal.
Well, I'm sure everybody sends their best wishes and great good luck in your endeavours, Brian. Thanks for calling today.
Let's all be open and honest. Thank you very much for the platform.
Good to hear from you. 14 minutes past 12 on Manx Radio. It's a dreadful condition. It can be mild, it can be serious, it can be deadly. So let's just see where we go with that. I know the horse community is alive with concern for Strangles. Just one official case at the moment on the island. David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. I just want to take a bit of time, just give you my look at the seminar, the government seminar, which happened on Wednesday and Thursday, if you don't mind.
Yes, by all means.
Taking up a bit of time. Well, on the Wednesday, we did down there very early towards the kicking off time to listen to the education one in the main hall. Disappointed there was about, maybe 60 people there, and the main hall is a massive place. To give a speech on. There was members there. There were some political members. The minister's unwell, so she wasn't there. Somebody else took up the reins. And really, when I meet him again, I'm going to say he needs to be a bit brighter. He was saying I was nearly asleep or wanting to go somewhere else. But can I say, I was expecting a lot of interest from the audience for questions, but my view was that they had a load of teachers up there, a load of people who were involved in education and so forth, and I've seen a load of civil servants lying around too. But they were only saying is how good we are. They were trying to put and the person that was asking the questions, who I know quite well, I won't mention him, but we never had enough time to ask for questions. So subsequently, I decided to nip upstairs and go to the cinema room and listen to the Chief Minister and the Treasury guy, which was... There were about the cinema's not that big, but there was about 60 people in there. But it was very interactive. Can I say a little plug to the Chief Minister, Alf Cannon? He took it on the chin. Some of the questions that he may not be able to answer, he actually didn't skirt around them. He was open and honest, and it was a lively interaction with the public that was there. And the people wanted to ask questions. But if I can go quickly to the second day, is the one I was really concerned about was to do with planning, housing, indirectly local authority where they're going to have this housing board, and they're going to. And I seen the fellow for the first time who was the chairman of it. I can't remember his name. I'm hoping to try and get the slides he put up, but when he put the slides up and on a big screen of the development in Domain Road, the buildings are massive, and they were all about creating an environment for people. I wonder where that's going to work. They had a lady from the UK that was an expert in something or other. I felt really sorry for her, and I had to mark her down as poor, because I asked questions. We got a chance to ask questions then, and I asked her about the brownfield sites that we've got all over the place, like the school, Park Road School, the prison, Summerland, the car park. We even mentioned about Dandara down at Derry Haven, and we also mentioned the other one too, Newsome's down on the quay. And I thought these experts were coming in to give us a view, or an independent view on them, and to tell us where are we going.
Well, the man you mentioned, I think the man from the Manx Development Corporation is Mr. Dane Harrop as well. And I have to say, our reporter Lewis Foster, who was there all the time, tried to approach Mr. Harrop. Unfortunately, couldn't get to him. So we haven't had a word from the boss of the Manx Development Corporation as yet.
And that's what maybe they used the term like it's an arm's length organisation in a lateral term, because I think we never got to question them. That was the issue was, and they weren't hard questions. There were other people asking questions as well. I got a chance to ask too. Maybe that we weren't given enough time at the end of their little talks to do that. But what worries me regarding that is when they're going to fund, they're going to have a right to go to planning. I asked the question of one of the ministers there, is how are we going to have that separation between government and somebody that's going to make the decision makers, which is the planning committee.
Yeah.
How is that going to be done? And I did ask one of the ministers there, we need to have the inspectors coming from the UK, and that's hard for me to swallow. But how are we going to get the independence between a government department, a Quango organisation which has got money funded by taxpayers' money, and a free rein, as far as I'm concerned, to do all and sundry? And my view, and finally, the final talk was, and I went to it, was the Chief Minister's rounding up. Spot on. I'm going to give him that. I'll give him that. I'm not giving him 100%, but I'm giving him 90%. What good performance. He was really laid back because he's twicked his back, so he was in a little prone position on a high chair, like, and it was absolutely give us it warts and all. And I was proud to go out to the Villa Marina late on last night and say, well, he's doing a good job. What about the rest?
Good. All right. Thanks, David.
See you, boy.
Good to hear from you. Well, we'll talk about those developments that are on the way fairly shortly, the big developments on brownfield sites. First of all, David's with us. Hi, David.
Oh, good afternoon, Andy. I just want to follow on from my experiences of the government conference on, I think it was Wednesday night. I went for the education panel. I counted 60 people. I did a head count in the hall for the panel question and answer session after Paul Crane had delivered the address because Julie Edge was indisposed. Platitudes. I know it's an Isle of Man government conference, but of course the panel was made up of either political members or people who would not say anything against the department, their department bosses. So we had a couple of teachers. We had Max Kelly from Williston, Laxey and Doon, and we had the head teacher of Ballacameen, but they're not going to criticise the department, and they certainly didn't then, whatever they may feel in private. And you also had the principal of UCM who did inject a bit of humour by saying they were trying to attract international students to UCM, which was quite risible, really. Alex Allenson was on the panel. I did get a chance to answer questions. Again, they ran out of time for questions. There might have been longer for that and perhaps limited the audience to one-line questions rather than a 5-minute statement followed by a question. I asked Allinson, the Treasury Minister, whether there was going to be a pupil premium, which is the funding for those schools which have social demographics where there's a lot of poverty and other issues that influence results. There is not going to be one, so that means schools like Henry Bloom Noble, Williston, Vic Road, Manor Park, Annika are all going to continue to turn out pupils with very low levels of literacy and numeracy before they go to secondary school, which is unfortunate. But apart from that, it was I thought, a useful exercise. I thought James Davis compared it really well. Disappointed that there's going to be no pupil premium, but hey, I thought we knew that, and of course, with the Minister's statement today saying he's going to make departments accountable, I don't know how we're going to do it. A lot of the answers, though, especially from Mr. Crane, were just standard party lines. So one lady was really cross because she wanted to find out school performance results, exam results, says she can do it for Jersey, other places, but here they don't publish. So we had the usual same old tired argument from the department, we can't compare. No, they can compare, they choose not to compare, and that's the difference. But I think it was an overall a good exercise. Whether they'll run it again, I don't know. 60 people isn't many, really, in a hall. We were spread around. But yeah, fair dues for the government for putting it on. Anything that they could do to improve it, David? I would like to see this. For the panel, for example, it can't be the government. The trouble is, I'd like to see a panel of the sort you get on a Question Time on BBC, where you get widely differing views. There you've got, as I said, everyone's going to toe the party line there. But of course, it's the Isle of Man government, so it's going to be. So it can't. Who they get in, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But there must be campaigners out there, people who speak, the Positive Action Group and that sort of thing, that could actually give a different slant and actually challenge the other panel members as well, because it was very much a mutual slap on the back, I felt. Okay, all right. I appreciate that, David. Thanks for calling today. Thank you, bye. 24 minutes past 12. Mannin Line, we're open line through till 1 today. And Julian's on. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. It was a very interesting government conference, especially at the MUA wind farm update room. Their PowerPoint presentation, though, showed some contradictory figures, which I asked about in the Q&A after. One of their presentation slides showed that the average onshore wind farm produces electricity about 35% of the year, about a third. But their predicted numbers for Eriestane calculated out at 72% of the year, so more than double what they say was the average. When I asked about it, I was given two answers. And the first one, I was referred to an offshore Scottish wind farm called Highview, which apparently is producing electricity 65% of the year. But the problem with the statement was, when I went and had a look at it after, Highview is a novel technology using frozen air storage, which is currently being discussed with Ørsted as a future storage solution, as can be seen on their website at highviewpower.com.
Frozen air? What's frozen air?
Yeah, they're freezing air to minus 190 Celsius in stainless steel tanks, which from memory takes about 1,800 Celsius of coking coal to make. But anyway, the other answer was very interesting, and I quote word for word on this one. We don't require wind measurement to move forward. It's actually the models that would allow us and give us enough granularity to make that decision. Now, they mentioned that they use a model called Noable, so it's Noabl. But the programmers of that model admit that it cannot take account of local features like valleys causing wind tunnel effects, high hedgerows, woodland, and buildings. And interestingly, the presenter also mentioned that the wind sensor at Eriestane that's currently up there recorded 30 metre per second wind speeds a few days ago. Now, 30 metres a second is 68 miles an hour, but that's 22% higher than the turbine emergency cutoff speed of 56, and it hasn't even really been that windy. I would imagine today it's probably way over that, and I'm guessing that might be exacerbated by the wind tunnel effect from the prevailing wind that blows between the stacks, that little valley that's at the hairpin on the Slock. So they're having too much wind, but it seems to be blasting through, if you see what I mean, which is not really what they call this laminar flow, where they like a nice, smooth wind. A bit like when you're on an aeroplane, you don't really want turbulence, you want the air nice and smooth.
Did they say anything about how long this is all going to take and what the potential timeline is? How long is it going to be?
Well, there were various people that were asking questions along those lines. And also, of course, how much is this all going to cost, especially in view of all the projects that have gone, 4 times over, like the Liverpool landing stage. But, even though they're saying that it could be double, I think it's going to be less than half. And there's a very, very interesting website that is operated by Ørsted, EDF, Siemens and General Electric wind turbines, and the Crown Estate, and several others. Now, this consortium have got a website that's called renewableuk.com. And there is one particular very, very interesting page on that, it really tells an interesting story. To get to that page, you've got to click on the menu tab. You then go into Energy Pulse tab, and then finally into the Wind Energy Database. And this page gives a breakdown of all the energy generation from all the wind farms in the UK, on and offshore, all the commercial fleet. They've even got a useful tab that tells you how the figures are explained, and they're showing an average production rate across all turbines, including the huge C ones, of 32%. Remember, they're saying 72% up at Erie Staine. But there's another useful bit of information, which is the last bit I'll say. The page also shows how the power is split between the onshore and the offshore turbines, and they both make about the same amount of power. But the offshore fleet needs 2,600 turbines. But the onshore fleet is 9,000 turbines, so you need 3.25 times more onshore than offshore to produce the same amount of energy. So if you work that back, that's about 18% of the year for onshore. So what we're saying here is that Erie Staine is being talked up by 4 times in its production. Unless, of course, Ørsted and EDF and Siemens Gamesa turbines are all wrong. But this provides me 2 serious questions. What about return on investment if the electricity is going to be a quarter of what they're telling us at the moment as a sales pitch? And what about our electrical resilience on the grid? If we're getting turbines that are only turning out a quarter of what they're saying that they will do, based on something that's not even built yet, and also models, how is this ever going to work?
What's that website called again?
It's renewableuk.com. And you go to, when you're in there, it's better set up for a laptop than it is for a mobile. They haven't got the page set to do which device size. But if you go to menu, go to Energy Pulse, and then go to Wind Energy Database, and then it will provide a page. And you can see on the left, you can clearly see there are 9,000 odd turbines for onshore. There's about 2,600 and something for offshore. And then you can see that the interesting part is they tell you how much energy was produced over last year in 2022, which is the PA number, the megawatt hours PA. That's 80. But the theoretical maximum is 250. So if it was working perfectly 24/7 every minute of every day. So if you divide 80 by 250, you get 0.32, which is 32%. But if the fleet is divided up equally 3.25 times more onshore turbines, it cannot possibly be 32% of the year that it works.
Okay.
It must be less. It must be.
Okay, all right, Julian, we appreciate that, and have a good weekend now.
Cheers.
29 minutes before 1 on Manx Radio. 3 major schemes have been approved in principle for funding from the Island Infrastructure Scheme, seeing the redevelopment of 3 brownfield sites across the Isle of Man, including the former Villiers Hotel on Loch Prom in Douglas, supported by the private sector. Investment of nearly 50 million pounds. Well, the Treasury Minister is happy with these. says it's an important milestone. 2 of the applicants will provide 1,000 additional homes by the end of 2026. The schemes involve 55 apartments in Lake Road in Douglas by Duluth Limited, which is part of the Dandara Group. Now, Lake Road is basically that kind of unused car park bit where the old Douglas tip used to be, opposite where Tesco is. It's been an eyesore for years and years. There was talk that it was going to be an extension to Tesco, but that planning didn't happen. So it's now going to be 55 apartments, basically an extension of where Dandara got the apartments up towards the old bridge, the old Ford garage. There are also going to be 38 apartments on the former Ocean Castle Hotel site in Port Erin. Tavere are doing that. And the third proposal is Tavere doing a major redevelopment on the former Villiers Hotel site. Mixed use, 80,000 square feet of commercial, retail and leisure space, a high-quality public realm, they say, incorporating a new revised civic square and an 80-bed hotel. That's all to come. And coincidentally, it may interest you to know that very shortly, I think it's not that far away, I think it may even be next week, but the former Newson site planning refusal is to be considered by a planning inspector. Apparently it may take more than 1 day, maybe as much as 3 days, but it's next week. Obviously the people behind it, the people who want to develop it, are contesting the refusal, and we'll say what happens, because if all this new brownfield site is going ahead. And I also note at the bottom of Douglas Head Road by the old Trafalgar Hotel, what used to be a big hole in the cliff has now been fenced off and painted, so something could be happening there. What do you think is going to happen to Newsons? What do you think should happen where that's concerned?
Problems with your spine and posture can have a serious effect on your quality of life, but a Line for Life spine clinic could help. If you're suffering from back pain, neck pain, headaches, their holistic scientific approach could find and treat the root cause of the problem for long-lasting relief. Touch A Line for Life now or call 629-444. A Line for Life, the island's spine and posture clinic, here to make life better.
At ShopRite, a big slice of our range is continually priced to match or better other supermarkets. We call it Price Match Plus, the plus being what others simply don't match. Like ShopRite Savers, low prices, choice and value you won't get elsewhere, with brands like Sainsbury's and no need to travel miles. Plus, the difference being locally owned makes. We're loyal supporters of local food producers and businesses and benefit the Manx economy directly. ShopRite, proudly locally owned.
Everyone's more conscious of energy usage nowadays, so Manx Utilities has begun installing smart meters for standard domestic customers island-wide. With our Smart Living app available too, you'll be in control of tracking and managing your energy. No need to contact us, we'll be in touch when we're ready to fit your smart meter. Visit the Smarter Living page at manxutilities.im. Manx Utilities, delivering a smarter future.
What a challenging few years for all businesses. At Nicola Bowker & Co, we're proud to be in your corner. But even more proud of the local businesses who have adapted with new technology and prepared for the future. Nicola Bowker & Co.
The government has set clear targets to decarbonise the Manx economy over the coming decades. Solar power and onshore and offshore wind look like the best available renewable energy generation prospects, but are there alternatives? The Chief Minister doesn't seem convinced, but Graham Fox-Hume tells us that the answer lies beneath our feet, and John Shepherd wants draconian measures introduced to help us lead better lives. Are they right? Find out on Perspective this Sunday at 12 noon on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. Is geothermal energy really readily available, and if so, why is it not being explored? Why aren't we building houses that use a tiny fraction of the energy to heat?
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Fast am I, 24 minutes before 1. Some hot news. Pope Francis has granted cathedral status to the Church of St Mary of the Isle. Now, following Douglas being awarded city status as part of the late Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee celebrations in July last year, the church will be a co-cathedral with the Metropolitan Cathedral of Christ Christ the King, based in Liverpool city centre, and will be the first Catholic co-cathedral in the British Isles. Co-cathedrals are rare in the Catholic Church, but exist when two dioceses, each with its own cathedral, are merged, or when a single diocese spans two distinct civil jurisdictions. So how about that? Cathedral status to the Church of St Mary of the Isle in Douglas. Congratulations. And Howard's with us. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. I just listened to you talking there about the companies that's proposing to put these new buildings up. Now, the companies, there's one is, as you say, is Dandara. It's under a different name, but it's the same horse, just a different jockey. And the other one, Tivar, they're well established on the island. Tivar, they did the renovation of that building at the end of Athol Street, the railway station end, and that was a good job. They actually own, as far as I'm aware, the Casamona Hotel.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
They gave a serious amount of money to the hospice. They built a new section to the hospice. So they're not people, we hear so much about people moving onto the island, starting to build, collecting the money and disappearing. These are not those sort of companies. So I think the fact that they're going to build on brownfield sites is a good thing. But you mentioned there that down where the Tesco, well, Tesco's, that area there used to be part of what the Quiggins timber yard, the rope works as they called it. And the opposite side, that's the car park, was the Douglas Steam Sawmills, two major timber merchants on the island. And the buildings that's standing at the bottom, opposite Tesco, well, a large part of that area used to be the old abattoir. The council, Douglas Town Council, had part of that land as part of a yard for a while after the abattoir moved up to the new place. But it's aptly named down there, Lake Road, because the original stone bridge, where the bridge is now crossing over, above that top side of it, well, there was a boatyard there, building various vessels. What's her name? Knox, part of the Knox family had a boatyard there. But not there. The people who are going to build down there, Dandara, they must be. They're not stupid. They would know that that place is prone to flooding, just by the sheer name of it, Lake Road.
Well, I'm trying to remember, didn't Tesco car park get flooded, certainly in the past few years? If it comes up and goes around Bank Circus, that gets flooded around there, doesn't it?
Yep. The whole area was notorious for flooding. This is not a global warming thing. It's been going on all my lifetime, and I'm getting seriously old now, but I can remember there when the high tide used to come up and lap onto the North and South Keys, and the tongue would be covered. But as I say, it seems to be a good idea, and it'll help to make the whole place look better, because seeing a photograph of what they're proposing to build on the promenade on the Villiers site is a million times better than what's there. AXA, who had that place, they never got their buildings completed, and it was, it's a proverbial camel design or horse designed by a committee. But if they put a hotel there, that can only help the island and Douglas, and the other building down south, another brownfield site, it can only do good instead of taking up arable land. And but as I say, they must be well aware of the reason why that was called Lake Road down there. But just as a point of interest, what we got Tesco down there, that was designed originally to be a co-op.
Oh, was it?
Yep, and they didn't. They didn't complete it. Didn't start it. Tesco took it over, and that was over 20 years ago.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Howard. Have a good weekend.
Take care. Bye now.
Right. Look at that time. 19 minutes to 1. Stephen's with us now. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Andy, and good afternoon, listeners. Just if I could make some observations. I was disappointed to hear David Quirk say, there's a little report back about yesterday, presentation by the MDC. that they've carried on and presented exactly the same plan as they did originally, and there was over 50 objections have been sent in to the planning application. There was a full house, as you know, you were there for the public meeting about the application, and it would appear that the development company have not took any of these on board because they're still ploughing on. So a couple of issues, or a couple of observations, if I may. One is, if we are now getting these big schemes coming on board by the private development side of things, why do we need a government-funded developer? Because that's what it says, Manx Development Company. So why are we having a Manx Development Company funded by the Treasury? That's point one. When now we're getting private industry to do what they should do, it shouldn't be up to government to do private development. The site is not a brownfield site because it's costing millions to clear out and buy businesses up. And thirdly, how can we be sure that the planning department will look at this when it's a government-operated institution? How can we be sure that they will look at these objections objectively and the plan objectively? Because in many respects, people have used the strategic plan to highlight their objections, and that leads on to this latest change to the strategic plan. Is it merely being changed in order because people are using the current strategic plan to object to a development of this type? So I know that you can't answer these questions, Andy, but I just put it out there, food for thought for people to consider.
No, Stephen, they're all very, very valid questions. I've got questions of my own as well, in that, what will be success for the Manx Development Corporation? If a return on investment were to be made, where would that money go? And, where does it stop? If this is another arm's-length organisation for government, what does that say about government? In that, if they have to create something at arm's length to do something that they should be doing anyway, what's the purpose?
Well, the questions, I suppose, is MDC a development company, or will it become a housing association under part of these plans? I do think that what the private sector does good, we should leave to the private sector, and the things that the government need to do should be done by the government, and sometimes the two are not mutually exclusive. But in this particular case, where there's a huge number of residents of the area have objected to the plan, both in written form and attending a public meeting, and now it appears that there's been no change to the plan, I just hope that we can have confidence in the planning system, the current planning system, not the one they want to change, possibly to make objections much harder.
Okay. All right. Stephen, I appreciate that. Thanks for calling today. It's 1:45 on Manx Radio. If you want more information, by the way, about the Manx Development Corporation, and also the fact that they offer professional services, they offer feasibility studies, they offer client advisory services, so obviously they're an arm's length a Treasury-owned organisation, but they are offering professional services. You can find out who they are. I mean, the two main people really are Dane Harrop, who's the managing director. Chairman of the board is Sean Gilbert. Non-execs are David Peach and Laura Jones. Karen Mayer, Senior Project Manager. Lara Swales is Head of Finance, and Claire Pullen is a Project Coordinator. That's all publicly available information at mdc.im. If you want to find out the people and the purpose behind the Manx Development Corporation, then that's the website, mdc.im. And the door is always open. We would love to welcome members of the Manx Development Corporation just to come in, present their credentials to you, the audience, and tell us what it is they're about.
They are
Coming. 2 brand new EVF car washes are coming to the island opening September 23rd. Bigger, wider, taller. State-of-the-art machinery made for today's mighty vehicles. Prepare for the ultimate car wash experience. New EVF car washes at Alexander Drive, Douglas and Ramsey.
Just Care products for mobility solutions.
As the island's exclusive stockists of the Cozy Feet footwear range, Just Care products have a wide choice of Cozy Feet shoes and slippers for you to try. Highly recommended by healthcare professionals. Come and try a pair of Cozy Feet today at Just Care products. Find us behind B&Q, or for more information, give us a call on
627 177.
Whatever your style, you'll find something stunning to enhance your home at Miller Chaps of Ramsey. From classic elegance to new trends in home design, Miller Chaps have 2 fabulous floors packed with fantastic new furniture, furnishings and homeware. Whether you're looking for fabrics and wallpapers, new flooring, a comfy sofa or unique artwork to complete your look, you'll find it at Miller Chaps, along with much more from their vast inspirational range. Find your style in store today at Miller Chaps of Ramsey.
He'll help keep your garden looking fine. He makes it easy and he saves you time. He'll save you cash. He's Johnny Trash.
Tired of endless trips to the skips? Fortnightly curb collections from Johnny Trash, the eco-friendly way to deal with garden waste. All for the equivalent of just $3.25 a week. Sign up on their Facebook page or call 477 767.
He'll save you cash. He's Johnny Trash.
Jump aboard the time train and take a trip back to the 1960s on Carnaby Street every Saturday morning at 8:30 with Isle of Man Railways. It's full of 60s hits and memories. On board the time train, Gladys the tea lady.
Right, boys?
Harry the driver.
Hello, crispy old mate.
Roger the fireman.
All aboard Isle of Man Railways time train.
Oh, and Raffles the dog. And of course you and me. You can win tickets for 2 for one of the Isle of Man Railways fantastic dining car experiences. Carnaby Street, 8:30 on Manx Radio, on AM FM, online, on smart speakers and all over the world at manxradio.com. The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
At 12 minutes before 1, just a quick word. Due to technical issues, the provider's aircraft, problems with the aircraft, no airmail's been received on the Isle of Man today. Priority items, including special delivery and parcel force express 24, aren't here. Manx local to local mail and sea mail unaffected, but of course the airmail's going soon anyway, so it'll all be by sea mail. Beach Buddies just want to tell you there's no event this weekend because they've had 3 very hectic weeks. So all the best to them. You got a Sunday off. Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
Ask me what I learned yesterday at the conference, Andy.
Juan, what did you learn at the conference yesterday?
That is a good question, and I am so glad that you asked it, in the words of Dr. Allinson. Well, I learned yesterday how £40,000 can dress something up to make it look really good. ELS done a good job. Great job, Justin. Made it look, the whole look really presentable, but we didn't change much from last year. A lot of PowerPoints, a lot of talking to us. Very convenient that Tavir and Dandara released their new proposals on the same day as the conference. But just picking up on a few points on stuff, and I know Julian asked quite a few questions there yesterday. There was a point on, looking at the Alaman Politics page, they put a little snippet on of Dr. Allinson talk, and this was about the housing, and going on about the housing crisis, and I believe a tentative housing association that they want to set up.
Well, so-called housing association, yes. I don't think it's going to be like housing associations elsewhere, because that involves partial ownership sometimes.
Yes, it does, and working in conjunction with the Manx Development Corporation. Of course, they rolled Dane Harrop out for his yearly inspection, so Dane was there, and I think Lewis was asleep at the back there. He was waiting for something interesting to happen. I think we had to nudge him to wake him up. But we've got this here that's housing crisis, and Dr. Allinson said in a little piece that was put on the politics page about landlords and regulations, and there should be regulations put on landlords. There seems to be a kind of a grab by government of properties. I think this is happening with the councils around the island as well. Government seems to want to control the properties. They want to control everything. Not necessarily a good thing. And just touching on to, I'm just going to tie this all together. I'm touching on to the breakout room where Laurie Hooper was talking about the health. And again, as your previous caller said, very, very short time for questioning. James had very short time to get questions in. There was a lot of questions from the floor. And one guy who wanted to put a question forward, he actually persevered to put the question forward. And the answer from Laurie Hooper, this was concerning health. The answer from Laurie Hooper was basically, if you buy a second-class stamp, you get second-class service. And are you prepared to pay more for your health service? So that was basically the answer. I'm not sure whether we actually have second-hand stamps as it happens anymore, but I'm looking at, we have this housing crisis, and again, we've spoke about this before, Andy. Crisis is something, in my book, it's happening here and now.
Well, crisis is a flat tyre, isn't it?
It is.
It's a radiator boiling over.
Absolutely. So we've got this here doom and gloom health crisis that we have, and the figures are going back up again. There's 20 cataract operations a week coming back on. So Synaptics cleared everything, and we're getting like 100 a month coming back up. Not going to be long before we're back up to a crisis point again on that. So we've got a housing crisis for our younger people. We've got a health crisis, but this government seems to be hell bent still on spending all our money on a climate change where I'm looking out the window on an average September day and I'm not seeing any change. But they want to spend all their money on this. I want to spend all our money on this, I stand correct myself, through data modelling. Because that's where all this is coming from. As Julian said before, data modelling, and look at the mess that made the world for COVID and all the other stuff through data modelling. The facts and the figures are there on this. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. So I ask the politicians again to get yourselves together and start looking at what these chief executives and advisors are telling you and do the best for what's for the Isle of Man and the people.
OK, all right. Have a good weekend, Julian.
Take care, Andy.
Bye-bye now. Good to hear from you. And Neil's on now. Hi, Neil.
Good afternoon, Andy. I very much agree with what Stephen was saying. I think the alteration of the strategic plan is a simple ploy to make it easier for the development lobby. And when we aren't following the current plan, I see little point. I actually have no confidence in government whatsoever. It was very well presented, and I agree with the brownfield sites being developed. That does make sense. However, in direct relation to the plans, there's an area of land north of Castletown which is classified as open space. So that has the same categorisation as any of the brews, as we call them in the Isle of Man, the walks, the fields, the hill lands, etc. It also has the added protection of green gap status, which states quite clearly in the strategic plan and within the area plan that those green gap positions are to ensure that there is no coalescence between villages and towns and et cetera, et cetera. It's effectively a method of separation. However, our planning minister has allowed Hartford Homes to develop this area of land. So they're breaking the green gap proposal legislation and the open space designation. And you just really have no confidence at all in what government is doing. If they're breaking their own rules, what chance do we have?
OK, Neil, thanks for that comment. Cheers now.
Okay,
it's
lovely.
5-1 on Manx Radio. If you were at the government conference and you have something to say, then please you can call the answer phone on 682-631 or email manninline@manxradio.com. Or we're back on Monday with an open line. Tuesday, the Garth MHKs, Daphne Kane and Andrew Smith, are live. And by the way, there is a political surgery tomorrow, Saturday 23rd, Anne Corlett and Chris Thomas from Douglas Central at All Saints Church Hall. It's on tomorrow afternoon, 2 till 4. Good afternoon. Before the government gives social housing away to the supposed housing board or this housing association, says Texter 508, would they consider the right to buy from existing long-term tenants? Surely that would be a good idea. And again, we're still getting this skeet, by the way, and I must say it is entirely skeet about the new Department of Infrastructure Minister, Tim Crookall, MHK, pushing on with the horse tramway. Well, you haven't heard anything, Jack 927. You mentioned this before, but we haven't heard this. And by the way, somebody said, what's the other plan that the Manx Development Corporation is looking at? Well, in the existing ones they've got, the other one is Parade Street, the Parade Street car park site in Lower Douglas. And apparently they're in the early stages of a design process to create a multi-use development, whatever that is, on the car park site at Lower Douglas. So it seems Manx Development Corporation is roaring ahead. That's it. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Beth is standing in for Christy after 1 o'clock. Have a fantastic weekend. Make the most of the weather.
WIN